Hi guys, my name's Carly and I decided to do my presentation over the Zulu culture. So before going into their perspectives on death and the afterlife, I wanted to give some background information on this culture. So the Zulu culture is the largest ethnic group in South America. It resides in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, where there's around 10 million Zulu people that live there. KwaZulu-Natal resides on the southeastern side of South Africa, so right along the coast of the Indian Ocean. And Durban is a popular city within this province. Some may remember it as a place where multiple matches of the World Cup were played back in 2010. So learning more about this province, it tends to be mostly hilly and mountainous. Their summers and winters remain pretty hot and dry with minimal rain. And the main language spoken in KwaZulu-Natal of the Zulu people is isiZulu. This language has evolved and has borrowed numerous different words from other languages like Afrikaans throughout South Africa and also English. They also have a series of clicking noises that they make to communicate with each other. I also wanted to take a closer look at the Zulu people themselves. So I'll start by talking about the women, then the men, and then how their family life tends to be. So the Zulu people refer to themselves as the people of the heavens, and women dress accordingly to their marital status. So single women will show their pride by flaunting certain parts of their body by wearing grass or beaded skirts. Married women will cover their bodies to indicate that they are taken. And engaged women tend to grow their hair to cover their chest in respect to their in-laws, and they also wear lots of beaded covered clothing to cover their chest as well. So the Zulu men wear lots of traditional clothing like a warrior headband and other things that cover certain parts of their body like their shoulders, their waist, their groin, and their feet. So now looking at their family life, it's quite different from our culture. The women raise the children solely by themselves. The father often doesn't have a relationship with his kids until they get a lot older. Polygamy is also very common. The wives will serve their husbands everything, bringing them food and water at night, and then returning to their headquarters in their own tent. The boys grow up learning to tend to their family's herd and their cattle, and girls spend their days learning different chores, how to carry gallons of water, and how to plant crops. So now looking at the Zulu culture's perspective on death, they believe that life does not end once someone passes away, but it also continues into a spiritual world. So it's a lot like our culture in some beliefs as to that as well. They also believe that every person who dies within their tribe must go through a traditional burial process, and if they don't, then that deceased spirit may become, or that deceased person may become a wandering spirit and haunt the people in that tribe. So taking a look at the traditional Zulu burial process, it's pretty similar to ones in our culture, where they consist of burying the deceased body into the ground just to bring closure to the family and also as a visiting site for later on. Bodies can be cremated, but the burial process is a lot more popular now. It did originate at homes or the side of their huts, but cemeteries have since evolved, and that's where a lot of the deceased bodies will now be buried. Something that is pretty different from our culture is an animal is often killed as a ritual practice as well. And the deceased person's belongings, some of their belongings are also buried with them as to aid them into their spiritual journey into the spiritual world. And dancing is also a huge part of the Zulu culture. They have different dances for different ceremonies and for different traditions they might have. But for the burial process, they do have a death dance where they also burn incense. They also have a tombstone revealing, which is a year or two later after the initial burial of the body, where the tombstone of that deceased person is revealed to the community and their family. The family will go there to have more of a closure and sense of conversation with the tombstone and at the gravesite, just talking about how they've been, maybe struggles that they might be dealing with, things like that. And then, so the belief of afterlife in the Zulu culture, I mentioned earlier the slaughtered animals. It's also an offering into the spiritual world to interact with their ancestors. So death, marriage, and birth are just a few times that the Zulu people can interact with their ancestors through worship. And I also mentioned earlier the burning of the incense is also an offering as well. The Zulu people also believe that the person that has died is now reunited with their family members, just a lot like our belief in our culture, and they believe that they should be greatly respected now since they are the ones closer to God. So the Zulu people have a lot of different ways that they communicate with the dead, like I mentioned earlier, going to their tombstone to worship and talk to the deceased person there, and also honoring their ancestors through spiritual practice, but they also communicate with the dead in forms of dreams. So they believe that if you're dreaming of a deceased person and they're in good condition, they're smiling and laughing with you, then it is believed that that person has come to you to bring you good luck. And if one is having too many dreams about a deceased person, or dreams where they wake up feeling confused or they can't really remember, then it's recommended that that person to go see a traditional healer in order to learn what needs to be done and how to bring good luck to their life. So in conclusion, I was able to find many different similarities between death perspectives in our culture and in the Zulu culture, while also finding many differences as well. I hope that this presentation was able to give you a closer look to see what you might have similar or different for the Zulu culture when it comes to death or family life or how they live, anything like that. And I will attach the references in my discussion post, and thank you for watching.